It's time once again for That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly. That Business Show gives a voice to Tampa Bay's entrepreneurial community and highlights our community leaders, aiming to inspire and educate our listeners. Become a part of the entrepreneurial movement today by becoming a member of the Tampa Bay Business Owners and get your brand on air today. Visit TampaBayRadio.com for more information. All shows available on demand. Now, here are your hosts, Jamie and Kelly.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business. Kelly, over here, handling the co-hosting duties. Is your red button on now? Yes, she forgot to turn it on in the last segment.
So. It was funny as I was giving you a hard time, like, how dare you ask me if my button's on? Of course it's on, and it wasn't.
And so, Kelly, having a minor blonde moment for us early in the morning.
I'll just embrace it. Yeah, it's all right.
So we have a guest now for this hour. If you're listening to us in the last hour, we had to freestyle the entire hour because Brian Kornfeld was MIA.
Have we found out what happened to Brian?
No, hopefully he's okay, but it probably just got his schedules crossed because he's supposed to be in here on every other Thursday, and he had a trip last week, so it threw him off his game and everything. But, it was a good segment there, especially being with the election, topical things, and people kind of getting to learn more about who I am. I don't rarely talk about myself because I have guests in studio all the time, and so I don't focus.
Now we're finding out more about you.
I don't focus on myself. So let's go ahead and bring on our guest for the first half of the hour. We have Danny Triplett, who is the owner of Full House Liquidation. Learn more about this at fullhouseliq.com. So, Danny, welcome to the program today.
Welcome, Danny.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, I was going to say, do you have triplets?
No, not even twins, no. I do have 3 brothers, but that's 4 of us, so it doesn't really count.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you're an estate administrator. So tell us just about your business.
Sure. It's called Full House Liquidation. We're a Bay Area estate sale company. We conduct estate sales directly out of the home over like a 3-day weekend typically. We service 4 counties around Tampa Bay, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, and Hernando. We sell the personal property inside the home versus the realtor who sells the actual real estate. We conduct estate sales, and we sell the personal property. I'm a licensed appraiser with the Certified Appraisers Guild of America out of St. Louis. So we figure out what the contents of the home are worth, each thing, and then we conduct an estate sale, which
so you know how to appraise a variety of different things?
Right.
Because certain things have their specialists. Like, can you appraise jewelry also?
Jewelry, no, I send jewelry off.
Because there are certain categories that have their specialists, and then what does everything else just fall under a general appraiser's license?
Right. There are specialties. There's some appraisers that deal. It depends on what part of the country you're in. In the Midwest, there's a lot of appraisers that deal with farm equipment, and they do farm auctions and tractors and those kind of things. So there is all kinds of different specialties. Here in Florida, we deal a lot with the typical, the parents live down here, the family are having to sell the home because their loved one passed away, and then our company comes in and we deal with the general household, everything. We tell people we sell everything from half-empty bottles of Palmolive to $10,000 pieces of art, to cars, to cemetery plots. I mean, anything you want us to sell that's not actual real estate.
And do you see like the same people that come in and through these estate sales, sort of like what you see on TV with the storage wars, the locker auctions? You got that community that comes. Is that the same thing with the estate sales?
We do. We've been my company has been in business for going on 7 years, and we have a following of about 2,000 people on our email list. Now, they don't always all come to each sale, but they get notified, as well as several other websites that we advertise on to draw the estate sale crowd. And estate sales really are exploding across the country. It's kind of like a niche business that a lot of people didn't even know about a few years back. It's been around for a long time, but with shows like American Pickers, Antiques Roadshow, those kind of things, everybody wants to find that hidden gem in each house. They'll line up really early, just to get into these houses to see what's in there.
Do you sell it a piece by piece, or is it like with the storage wars where you sell the entire locker at once? How does it work? How do you break it apart?
We go in and typically we sell everything piece by piece. Now, we'll give them deals if they want to buy stuff in bulk, because a lot of times we'll get dealers in there that want to buy stuff, antiques or whatever it might be in bulk, and we'll give them deals. But typically we do sell things piece by piece. Sometimes we'll hold an auction. Now, when you hold an auction, you're selling stuff in lots, by the tray or whatever it might be, the entire contents of a house. You might have all of the crystal or all the little figurines or something on a tray. Typically we don't do auctions because they don't typically bring as much money as an estate sale. Auctions are a one-day event. Estate sales can be 3 or 4 days.
I was going to say, how long does it take to sell like a basic 1,500 square foot home worth of belongings?
A typical home, we'll run them 3 days just to kind of squeeze as much money out of them as possible. You can run them in 2 days and be done with a small one, but 3 days is typical. Some of the larger ones will run 4 days. We had one over by the airport here just recently. It was our biggest one in 7 years. We ran that one for 4 days. And that one was just phenomenal. Fox 13 came out. It was a really big event. So some of ours are really large events with big turnouts, and then other ones are just typical residential.
And what about the items that don't sell at the end of the estate sale? What do you do with the stuff that's still sitting around?
When we meet with the family, initially we ask them, what do you want us to do with the things that don't sell? Whatever they ask us to do is what we do. Some families, like the one we're currently working with, are like, don't worry about it. We'll take care of what doesn't sell. Typically, families will donate the leftovers to a charity of their choice, and we'll line that charity up. Usually it's the lesser stuff, the stuff that's just left over that doesn't sell.
And so who are the clients that come through the estate sales? Are they like the regular, say, the thrift stores and stuff like that?
A lot of people do try to flip things, whether it be, a lot of people are reselling on eBay these days, of course. I'd say probably 65 or 70% of the buyers coming in, they want to buy it, flip it, and make some money on it. So that's a big crowd. There's antique dealers that have antique stores, or they're in an antique store and they have a booth in there. So a lot of people are trying to flip things. And then we advertise really heavy via Facebook and, of course, in the general neighborhood of each estate sale. So we'll get a lot of just regular people, just people who just see it on Facebook, or they're driving by and they see our signs. So they'll come in and want to just buy the things in the house. They're not trying to flip it. They just want to.
Do you come in? Do you price everything for the families, or because I would think it like real estate? So a lot of times you think your home is worth more literally than somebody's willing to pay for it, and then you're dealing with would think people in an emotional state because you're dealing with a loss, or maybe
Right.
people some don't care. But are they dictating prices? Or are you able to do so?
Rarely does the family want to have a say in it. 9 times out of 10, it's their loved one's stuff. They don't really know much about it usually, so they're just like, please deal with it. We don't know. Now, if we're dealing with someone who's living and it's their stuff, sometimes they want to have a say. Typically, we tell them, trust us, we're appraisers. We know what the stuff's worth. We do this all the time, week in and week out. And yes, a lot of people do think their things are worth a lot more than they are because of what they paid for them initially.
So do you find a lot of really cool items where you're having to do like some of the reality shows where you go to, like, what is this worth? What could I get for this? And then they're calling in the specialist,
Right.
That, oh man, this is the rarest of the rare, So.
We do come across some very interesting stuff. So, you think about it. Ever since I was a child, I've always been interested in going in other people's homes and just seeing what they have, So it is very interesting. We do see a lot of neat stuff. About 2 years ago this time, I met a lady. I was doing their estate sale, and we were going through the home beforehand, before we even started, and she said, I have a question. She goes, I was wondering if something might be of value. And so we go into her bedroom. She pulls open the dresser drawer, and underneath a bunch of whatever clothes, she pulls out like a manila envelope. And inside there was some original Norman Rockwell pencil etchings that he had done for her father. Her father was the vice president of Top Value Stamps back in the 50s and 60s. There were these redemption stamp things. When you go to the grocery store, you get the little green stamps or whatever. You'd put them in the catalog, send them in or whatever, and you'd
I remember
redeem.
that.
Well, her father had hired Norman Rockwell to do covers for their catalogs, and these were some of the conceptual ideas that Norman Rockwell had just penciled down on little pieces of paper, his ideas. And if you looked at these pencil etchings, you'd go, oh, I know what painting that is. And these were his original ideas. Well, I told her, yes, I think those are definitely worth something. And when she told me the story, so I sent them off to Sotheby's in New York City. And it took about 6 months or so for them to finally go to auction because they had to find the right auction to put them in. I flew up there to Sotheby's, went to the auction and watched them get auctioned off, and they sold for $10,000. So that was pretty significant, they were just little pencil etchings. What's that?
That's a great story too.
Yeah.
How those came about. Very cool.
Yeah.
And what about situations where you may not know what you have? I mean, you can't be an expert on everything.
Right.
I see some things in like that Storage Wars show that just looks like, to me, regular junk they take in. Oh, it's worth $2,000. Like, what? I mean, how does that come into play in your business?
I work with a lot of other appraisers who have a lot more experience and years behind them than I do. So when I have questions, I'll field it to them. There's one that sends me a lot of leads. He'll go into home. He'll meet with people. He'll send the better things off to auction, like I do too. I like to get those ones. But if they're a lead from him, his name is Dale Schmerkar with Downsizing Advisory Service. Dale will go in and he has a lot more knowledge than I do, and he's kind of been a mentor to me in this business. I met him after I got started. We did the mayor of St. Leo's estate sale about 3 or 4 years ago, and that's where I met Dale. He was in that home doing some appraising, and so that's how we met.
So what is the typical, or I guess it wouldn't be typical, but like a discount on electronic items? If you spend $2,000 on a sound system, what's it get in an estate
What are you going to
sale?
get in an estate
Yeah.
sale? I typically say it like this. whatever the dollar amount might be, let's just say instead of $2,000, let's just say it was a $1,000 item, just to make it easier. If you paid $1,000 for it, we typically price it if it's in good working condition at about 3/4 of the value, say $750. Now and that's high for resale.
Is that just electronics? What about
anything,
furniture?
Anything.
Furniture, for
well,
instance.
furniture even less really, because furniture is like a used car, or a car. As soon as you drive it off the lot or you take it out of the store,
so those depreciate harder.
Yeah,
but
they
electronics,
do. Even the antique furniture is not that hot anymore. You know, everything now is like the mid-century modern. You know, the 50s and 60s type stuff, not really the antique 1800s type stuff.
And obviously the market that you operate in is going to dictate the value of the belongings too. Right. Have you always operated inside the Tampa Bay market with regard to estate sales?
Yes. I started about 7 years ago right here. We started out pretty much in the Palm Harbor, Clearwater area, and it just expanded from there as I met more and more realtors, and they introduced me to other realtors and estate attorneys. We get a lot of good estates leads from estate attorneys, and as word spread, business just kept building, and 7 years later, we're just running.
So, like, who is your best lead source, and who are you looking to do business? Is it the realtors and the estate attorneys?
Yes, estate attorneys especially, because when we meet with the estate attorneys, they're getting the estate fresh. It hasn't, the families haven't gone through there. Typically, they aren't allowed to go through it yet. It has to wait, and there's processes it goes through. So we're going in there, and we're able to sell a lot more for the family. With realtors, a lot of times the families have gone through the home. Everybody's gone through and taken out what they wanted, which is great, you know, because it's keepsake stuff they want. But they're not the bigger estates, you know. But we get a lot of it leads through realtors.
Currently talking to Danny Triplett again. He is the owner of Full House Liquidation, an estate sales company. You can learn more about his services at fullhouseliq.com. We've got to take a break, but we've got some more with him when we come back from the break on That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business.
Are you in need of new flooring or ready to tackle that home remodeling project? Then contact Yeager & Company Incorporated, a family-owned, state-certified general contracting business with over 70 years of experience and the recipient of the Angie's List Super Service Award for the last 8 years in multiple categories. Yeager & Company comes to you with their shop-at-home flooring sales service, and their hardwood flooring refinishing is the very best in the Bay. Kitchen and bath design featuring American-made, well-born cabinets, and all work is done by employees, not subcontractors. Learn more at YeagerFlooring.com.
If you've been following That Business Show on Facebook and Twitter, you may have noticed the quality of some of our images. That's because one of our sponsors is pro photographer Rick Taseda, a member of the Professional Photographers of America. You can view his extensive work by going to his website at ricktaseda.com or call him for an appointment to chat about your photography needs at 813-641-4757. That's 813-641-4757. 4757. Rick Taseda Visuals. Call him for your next event or project.
Savvy business owners utilize technology to connect with customers, communicate among teams, and collaborate with partners. Even with advances in technology, you all know it's not infallible. Where do you turn when your technology starts working against you? Who do you depend on to keep your team productive? Don't wait until your technology fails you. Get ahead of the crisis and contact the professionals at Alpha Computing Solutions so they can show you how to keep your technology running smoothly. Visit them online at www.alphacomputing.com. Who
doesn't have a smartphone these days? And of course, there's an app for everything. Well, almost everything. That's why the folks at Popcorn Apps started developing mobile applications. They saw people like you with genius ideas, unable to make those thoughts a reality. They develop applications for tens of thousands of dollars less than you'll find anywhere else, and will turn your idea into a reality in a matter of just a few months. Think you're not ready? Think again. They are your one-stop shop for mobile application development. See them at popcornapps.com with a K in popcorn, or call them at 727-415-6705 for your free consultation and pop your kernel of an idea into $1 million business and a world changer starting today. Did you know the biggest challenge business leaders face today is creating an engaged and productive workforce culture? Bill Meyer Ham Consulting wants to help you solve this challenge. They will help you transform your workforce culture to produce amazing business results. Call Bill Meyer Ham Consulting at 941-201-4650 today or visit BillMeyerHam.com. That's BillMeyerHam.com. Have a conversation.
I knew Mom wanted to stay at home. It's the center of her family, her life. But helping Mom stay in her home while managing mine was just too much. Honestly, it wasn't just about me. Mom didn't want me to be her caretaker. She wanted me to be her daughter. I felt so alone until I found out about Home Instead Senior Care. When we met the people at Home Instead, we just knew they were different. The experience was personal. And most importantly, for Mom and me, I get to be her daughter again.
Home Instead Senior Care. To us, it's personal.
At Vein 911, we will help you feel great again. Do you have restless legs, night leg cramps, or ankle swelling? Restless legs, cramping, swelling, and tired heavy legs are often symptoms of hidden vein disease. You do not have to have visible bulging veins to have the symptoms of vein disease. The vein care specialists at Vein 911 are uniquely qualified to evaluate and treat your veins. Are you unhappy with your previous vein treatment? Vein 911 succeeds where others fail. Call Vein 911 today at 855-VEIN-911. That's 855-834-6911 to book your free consultation. Vein 911. We will help you feel great again.
We've got a crash on 275 southbound between Fowler and Bush. That's currently on the right shoulder, but we're still seeing delays as everyone slows down to take a look. Also have a disabled bus blocking up the right lane of Bush Boulevard going westbound at 19th Street, and a crash on Dale Mabry southbound blocking up the left lane just past Hudson Lane. See traffic problems? Call the injury firm of Abrahamson and Uterwick Hillsborough Traffic Tip Line 866-545-9595.
This report is brought to you by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. Someone you know is suffering from Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. They're dealing with excruciating pain and days when they won't be able to get out of bed. Help someone you know and support the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America at ccfa.org.
Today, mostly sunny with drier air, high 81. Tonight, clear and cool, low 58. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, high 78.
You're listening to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly on 1250 Wins WHNZ. Missed a show? Then head over to TampaBayRadio.com, where all shows are available on demand. Once again, here are your hosts, Jamie and Kelly.
And welcome back to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business. Talking estate sales with Danny Triplett, owner of Full House Liquidation. You can learn more about his services over at FullHouseLIQ.com.
So tell us any interesting story, favorite moments. What can you share with us that really stands out in the years that you've been doing estate sales?
Well, we've been on TV probably 5 times, so those stories are, of course, the highlights of our 7 years in business. I think the first one was in Weeki Wachee. We did a sale. The lady had 1,500 plus dolls in the house. Every bed in the house was covered in dolls, neatly laid. Every closet had shelves from floor to ceiling with dolls lined. There was rooms where they were just piled everywhere neatly, but there was just hundreds and hundreds of dolls. So every news station came out and did a story on that estate. It was really interesting. Plus, it had a lot of antiques in there, too. Very interesting story there.
Are they like collectible dolls?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
you name it. Everything from really, really antique sawdust dolls that are like filled with sawdust and all the way to, modern 4-foot tall dolls that stood off the ground to...
So that's one of those situations where you probably call a specialist, right? Because
I did. I made some phone calls, but we spent a lot of time researching doll by doll, 1,500 dolls. When I say we, pretty much me.
Yeah.
It took a long time. We ran that sale for 3 consecutive weekends, but we did, if I remember right, probably 30 to 35,000 out of there. So
Dolls.
yeah, well, the whole estate.
Yeah, wow.
And some of the estates, the one we recently did was our biggest one ever. We did a little over $120,000 out of there over a 4-day sale. But again, we were selling I think there were 7 cars, motorcycles, shipping cargo containers, jewelry, coins. I mean, everything.
Now, do you post the items online for people to view on your website? How does that work?
We do. We post the pictures, and usually we'll put at least anywhere from 300 to 500 pictures for each estate sale. So some sales we put more if they're a larger sale, of course. So they go on our website, on several different Bay Area websites that deal with just estate sale followings, people that come out to estate sales. So it's a great way for families to make more money than they could if they tried to do it on their own. Just like with real estate, people try to do it on their own, and a lot of times it doesn't turn out as well. Same with estate sales. Families will try to do one themselves when they're already going through a hard time, either they lost a loved one or they're downsizing or whatever the reason might be. We can come in, alleviate all the stress. You don't have to do anything. We ask the families, you don't have to lift a finger, don't do anything. We'll come in and do everything from start to finish. like you mentioned earlier, the leftovers, whatever's left over, we'll handle it however you want us to. So,
and it's important, I think, to point out that you don't just do estate sales in a death. If somebody's moving across country and they're just leaving all the stuff behind, I mean, how often does that come into play in your business?
I'd say probably about 25% of the time.
25%, okay.
Yeah,
People just leave behind.
It's a decent amount. We do downsizing. 90. Well, I used to say 90% of the time. I guess 75% of the time it is a loss of a loved one. So we're dealing with the actual estate. Sometimes, though, we'll do partial estates. Sometimes we'll combine estates. Sometimes we'll take things from another family and combine it with another family's estate.
Now, with the election, a lot of people are moving to Canada. We're finding out your business is set to boom now,
we'll
right?
We'll sell all your stuff, yeah.
This is a good time for you to be in the business.
Yeah,
a lot
definitely.
Of people, a funny aside, the Canadian immigration website crashed the other night, as a matter of fact, during the election.
Did it
really? Yeah, it did. That's no joke.
I heard about that. I thought it was a joke, but
no,
it probably was.
it literally did crash.
Do you ever come across any items, collectibles that you just have to have personally that is of interest to you or your wife or anyone?
Well, I like old cameras. I love photography. I don't know much about it, but I just like collecting like the old 8mm projectors and the old Brownie cameras or whatever they are, the old Kodak cameras. I like those. Now my wife is a minimalist. She is the complete opposite of me. I could be a pack rat in this business because I like everything I see, but my wife is the complete opposite. She always tells me stop bringing stuff home.
That's probably good, right? It provides a balance,
yes,
so you don't end up
balance.
on one of the other reality shows, right?
Yeah, the hoarders, right?
Right.
So who do you need more of? Do you need more buyers or do you need more lead sources for the estate sales? Or is there a mixture?
Lead sources. We get a lot of buyers.
There's
buyers out there, plenty. And of course, we advertise heavily, so we find new buyers each sale. But I would say leads, we get a decent amount of leads, but I'm looking, and we're hopefully, going to work more with the state attorneys in the future. Realtors are a good lead, of course. We love to work with realtors. We get a lot of leads from realtors. And, of course, word of mouth as the business grows. People just tell each other. The buyers tell each other. But estate attorneys are a good lead for us.
And how does it work? Do you get a commission on the total number of dollars that you bring in? It's just a commission-based?
It's commission-based completely. There's no other cost involved to the family.
So no upfront costs?
No upfront costs, nothing. We do all the advertising,
everything,
everything, all the staff, all the preparations for everything. So there's no cost involved for the family. Our commission at the end is a little bit less than a consignment store. If you were to take your furniture to a consignment store, most of them are 50-50 down the middle. And or if you take your clothes to a clothing consignment store, whatever it might be, it's usually 50-50 down the middle. We charge 10% less than that. We charge 40%. The family receives 60%, and they don't have to lift a finger. Don't have to take their stuff to a store. They don't have to deal with anything. They just sit back, and we do all the work.
And you mentioned some sites that follow estate sales. On your site, Full House LIQ, is it just your own estate sales? How will people find out about estate sales?
Right. Full House LIQ is our website, and then estate sales are followed by the thousands across the country in every state and every major city. There's websites like one in particular called estatesales.net. There's another one called estatesales.org, and people sign up to be notified of estate sales. Like here in the Tampa area, the Tampa St. Pete market, there's I don't know how many companies, but every week you can find estate sales to go to and shop at other people's houses and buy things.
Can people buy online, or do they have to be at the estate sale to make purchases?
99% of the time they have to be at the estate sale. Sometimes we'll put things up for auction, whether it be like at an actual auction house around the country or on eBay, or sometimes like our last sale we did an auction, and more expensive things we put on worldwide liveauctioneers.com, where people could do online bidding if they wanted to bid on some of those things.
All right. Well, we got about a minute left. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you and stay in touch with your business?
Facebook is a good way for us. Our website or our Facebook page is called Full House Liquidation, just like the name of the business. And our phone number is 813-235-5541. And our website again is fullhouseliq.com, and our email is fullhouse at tampabay.rr.com.
All right. Danny Triplett, owner of Full House Liquidation, again, specializing in estate sales. Good discussion. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Danny.
Thank you.
Coming back from the break, we're going to be talking with Matt DiGennaro. He is the founder of Seabridge Wealth Management. We'll talk a little bit about wealth management and how this political election may be affecting your portfolio when we come back from the break. And again, learn more about this program over at TampaBayRadio.com. You've been listening to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business.
Hi, I'm Kelly Ham from Bill Meyer Ham Consulting. Did you know that one of the biggest challenges that leaders face is getting their employees to be engaged, motivated, and producing amazing business results? At Bill Meyer Ham Consulting, we'll help you transform your workforce culture from one that might be underperforming, maybe mediocre, to achieving amazing business results. You see, we realize that your workforce culture is equally as important as your business plan and your business strategy. The two must be aligned in order for you to reach your desired business and financial goals.
Carol,
Hey, Jim.
I just got this plan that could really help with our process here.
Okay, why don't you just have a seat and let's go over it.
Let us help you transform your workforce culture by leveraging your most important assets, your people. I want to know what's going on in your organization. Let us help you transform your workforce culture. Let's have a conversation.
I feel guilty that I can't always be there when Mom feels stuck at home. She was always there for us. But now she can't get out, and I'm not always available to take her places. Someone else needs to help her get around. Then I learned about Home Instead. Now Mom can do what she enjoys because her personal caregiver is there, and I can just be a daughter again.
Are you struggling to care for your loved one? We can help. Home Instead Senior Care. To us, it's personal.
Tip line 866-545-9595.
This report is brought to you by Positive Coaching Alliance. If you're involved in youth or high school sports, you need to know about Positive Coaching Alliance. PCA is a national nonprofit organization developing better athletes and better people through youth and high school sports. For more information, visit positivecoach.org.
1250 winds weather center forecast. Today's high reaching right around 80 degrees, decreasing clouds, so becoming sunnier as the day goes on. Upper 50s for the low. Beautiful day for Veterans Day tomorrow. Lots of sunshine, upper 70s. Impact Radio 1250 winds, WHNZ.
You're listening to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly on 1250 winds, WHNZ. Missed a show? Then head over to TampaBayRadio.com, where all shows are available on demand. Once again, here are your hosts, Jamie and Kelly.
And welcome back to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business. Time to talk a little bit about wealth management. We got Matt DiGennaro, who is the founder and CEO of Seabridge Wealth Management. You can learn more about him throughout the discussion at his website, which is seabridge.net. So, Matt, welcome to the morning discussion.
Thank you.
Welcome,
nice to be here.
So, a lot of stuff in the news with the election, and I kind of want to talk a little bit about that. But first, tell us a little bit just about your business and how you're different from other financial advisory firms.
Well, Seabridge is a registered investment advisor, and we'll get into the differences between that and other brokers and advisors in a minute. But we're based in St. Pete. We manage about $175 million for high net worth clients and corporate 401k plans. And we've been around for about 5.5 years.
And you're a fiduciary, correct?
A fiduciary,
right. Fiduciary, depending on how you pronounce the C. And how does that then differ from the other, financial advisor firms and money management firms out there?
Well, typically there's two types of financial advisors. There's brokers, your traditional, your folks like Merrill Lynch and Raymond James and Morgan Stanley and those sort of folks. And then you have what they call RIAs, registered investment advisors. They're by law, they're fiduciary advisors, which means fiduciaries have the obligation, the legal obligation, to put your interests ahead of theirs.
Act in the best interest as if you're managing your own personal
Correct.
money. So if you see something out there that pays you more on a commission or a fee base,
That's right.
You can't do that. But if somebody at Ameriprise or something, I guess they could. Am I wrong about that?
That's right. It's actually illegal to put your interest ahead of a client's, factoring in things like fees and commissions. You're required to put the client's interest first. For example, I've often used the example of our corporate attorney, Gil Lazenby, over in St. Pete, a tremendous attorney, very qualified. But when we go to him for advice, he doesn't give us sort of good advice when we have a question or an issue. He will be giving us his very best thinking on the law, right? And that's what a good fiduciary will do. It will give you their very best thinking regardless of what you're paying them, much like a doctor or a CPA. That's what we do. That's how we're different from the traditional brokers. Not that they're doing anything wrong. It's just their standard of care is not aligned fully with the clients because they're charged with generating income for their firm and themselves. which is fine. They've got to put food on the table. But there's just a different and better approach when it comes to managing money. And we think the highest standard of care by law is a fiduciary advisor, which we think people should look at.
Now, with this election and the change in government, are you making the changes in how you're advising clients necessarily, or going forward now with these big changes that are coming up?
Well, we don't know the changes. That's what's really interesting about this election is if you were watching it, some of you may have noticed on some of the stations they had a little screen on the bottom that showed the Dow futures around midnight.
Yes.
When it became clear that Mr. Trump was going to become president, and the Dow futures were down 1,000 points, which was a huge drop, right? Well, fast forward about 12 hours later when the markets opened, it kind of reversed itself. And we're not exactly sure, we meaning the markets aren't sure why that was. Maybe it had something to do with his conciliatory tone as the night wound down. But the market actually ended up 300 points the very first time.
Yeah, it's positive. I mean,
it actually was really odd.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I was just saying, and I'm not educated, to your degree with how the markets work, but to me it was people just moving the money around, selling out of this, buying into that. Was that?
No, it wasn't so much that. Without getting into a whole lot of detail, the markets do not like uncertainty.
Right.
Global markets, U.S. markets, doesn't matter. Anytime there's uncertainty of how the markets may go in the future, typically market participants will sell equities and they'll go into things like cash and U.S. Treasury bills as a safety haven, flight to quality, they call it. Well, that's what that was all about, right? So now as this has started to become, okay, well, it's going to be a Trump administration. What is that going to look like? They're listening very, very closely to the words that he's saying. As someone once said during the election, a president's words can move markets and move armies.
That's why it's important he follows the teleprompters.
It's really important he does that. So it may be okay. We don't know, but the uncertainty around what his policies are going to be, we don't know yet.
Right.
But hopefully he does a good job. And
when we saw the Dow futures react, and it started to react around 9 and 9:30 the other night, that's when I said, Trump is going to win. The market can see the bigger picture than any one individual can. And that's when I said he's going to win.
I mean, traditionally, a Republican candidate is pro-markets and pro-Wall Street and all those sort of things. But with Mr. Trump, it was a little bit different because of his views that were a little bit all across the board and uncertain.
Well, he's out there actively threatening to take away all those loopholes that he has benefited from throughout the years.
Well, that's right.
And he painted Hillary as just another big Wall Street fat cat, which is kind of interesting because I think people see Donald Trump as that. Who knows what's going to actually happen.
It's really interesting you bring that up because one of the rules that was passed about 10 months ago by the Department of Labor is called the Fiduciary Standard Rule, which essentially was an initiative by the Department of Labor to require brokers and advisors to work in your very best interest for IRAs and 401k plans. So, in other words, it was saying you must act as a fiduciary when you're managing an IRA or a 401k plan. So, the sort of scuttlebutt throughout the election was if Mr. Trump became elected, that he was going to, much like Obamacare, he promised to just repeal it. Well, his financial advisors, are saying that, well, if he got elected, that he was going to repeal the fiduciary standard rule, which is actually a step backwards. Because when you look at the fiduciary standard rule, it was really all about one thing. Well, it's actually three things. It was about eliminating conflicts of interest by your broker. Mm-hmm. It was about a full disclosure of all the fees that you're being charged. And thirdly, if it's not clear, by the name, fiduciary standard, it required those who manage your money to put your best interests first. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a head scratcher on how anyone cannot see that those three things are all really, really good for American employees in their 401k
My
plans.
father brought up, and I told this story briefly in that last hour, but my father is near retirement age, and he said under the last Republican president he lost $200,000 in his 401k, and he didn't hear any talk from Trump about the elderly and the retired. I mean, is this good for people in their retirements in their 401ks, or is it too early to tell? I don't know really what he was talking about.
Is what good in the retirement?
The retirement, the 401ks, the money that they have set aside for their retirement. How is that his policies going to impact, what we've saved for in our nest eggs?
Well, that's exactly the point. Is the whole goal from the fiduciary standard championed by the Secretary of Labor at the Department of Labor was to help these plan participants and these savers, these folks that have 401ks and IRAs. And the way to help them was to greatly eliminate the excessive fees that are in those folks' accounts and 401k plans. So without getting into a whole lot of detail, because we don't have the time, but one of the prime determinants for success in an investment portfolio, whether it's a corporate 401k plan or it's an individual IRA or account, are fees. Typically, folks around the country are unknowingly are paying anywhere between 2 and 3, sometimes more percent. There are some folks that are being charged 4 or 5% in fees. Well, in a market that's averaging right now, typically around 5, 6, maybe 7% if you're lucky in returns, if you're taking about half of that out in fees and commissions and expenses, you don't really have a fighting chance at a comfortable retirement, what we call being retirement ready. So you've got to be laser-like focused in understanding what you're being charged, not just what your broker or advisor is charging you, but what expenses are in the investments. Some mutual funds charge up to 1.5% on top of what your broker charges you.
Right, and a lot of people don't even know if that's good or a
They
bad
have
thing.
no clue.
They don't know.
No
yeah.
clue. I had a friend of mine who came to me and said, would you look at my mother-in-law's IRA? And she thought she was paying 1%. Well, when we did the due diligence, she was actually paying 5%. She paid 5% the first year. 5%. It's about a $100,000 portfolio. And then every year thereafter, she paid 3.5%.
Wow.
A typical fiduciary advisor will be charging around 1%.
So how can somebody fully understand the fees that they're being charged if they're dealing with the traditional
I
financial
get that
advisors?
question all the time. Well, it's not just Matt. I'd like to say that we are good at what we do, but my recommendation is twofold. Seek out a qualified registered investment advisor. RIAs are different, right? Again, they're fiduciaries. Typically, they're fee only, and we're required by law to fully disclose all of those fees up front and in writing. That's a major difference between an RIA and a broker.
So your service is just a fee, no matter how much
That's right.
money,
Well,
no matter
ours
what
are.
product that you
That's
put
right.
me in.
Fee only.
Fee only.
One fee only. We don't take commissions, 12B1 fees, which are trailing commissions on the mutual funds that you sell. We take nothing. And most firms like ours do the same thing. So if we all get hit by a bus at Seabridge, call.
Let's hope we don't all get hit by a bus.
No, I that would not be good. If that happens, then there are I wouldn't say there's many. There's a good handful of really qualified RIAs in Tampa Bay. Most people don't know this, but there's about 7,000 brokers in Tampa Bay. 7,000. There's probably a few hundred RIAs.
Is that just because you all don't make the money that the brokers are making, and so people are naturally gravitating towards that role versus the fiduciary relationship?
I got to be careful how they say this is the radio. The standard of experience and the qualifications to be a broker are a bit lower than what it is to be a registered investment advisor. Okay. So there are other differences as to why there are fewer. But it's suffice to say, being a fiduciary advisor is again the highest standard of care by law, and a lot of folks can't not just don't want to, but they work in an environment that does not allow them to do that.
So how did Seabridge Wealth Management come about then? Have you always been a registered investment advisor?
No,
what's
I
the
spent
history
about
of this?
25 years on Wall Street. The last 15 years or so, I ran the global asset management division for Bank of America out of London. Wow. So my team in Europe, Middle East, Africa, Asia, we work with a lot of central banks and sovereign wealth funds. We manage their money. Central Bank of Kuwait, Singapore, those sort of things.
So you know a little bit about financial management then.
Well, a little bit.
So why'd you step out of the corporate world into your own business there with wealth management?
I just got, in my last role, I just got tired of the excesses of Wall Street and folks really not doing what was in a client's best interest, whether it was a central bank or an individual with a 401k or an IRA. And I wanted to do something about it, right? Because it's, most people don't realize this, but they're going into a gunfight with a knife. And they're ill-equipped to understand all the things that we've been talking about. Is how do I know what fees I'm paying? How do I know what my broker or my advisor is telling me is true and accurate and in my best interests? Well, we wanted to do something about that.
All right. Currently talking to Matt DiGennaro, founder and CEO of Seabridge Wealth Management. And if you could use his services, learn more at seabridge.net. We've got to take a break. Well, we got another segment with him when we come back from the break. You're listening to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business.
Did you know the biggest challenge business leaders face today is creating an engaged and productive workforce culture? Bill Meyer Ham Consulting wants to help you solve this challenge. They will help you transform your workforce culture to produce amazing business results. Call Bill Meyer Ham Consulting at 941-201-4650 today or visit BillMeyerHam.com. That's BillMeyerHam.com. Have a conversation.
I knew Mom wanted to stay at home. It's the center of her family, her life. But helping Mom stay in her home while managing mine was just too much. Honestly, it wasn't just about me. Mom didn't want me to be her caretaker. She wanted me to be her daughter. I felt so alone until I found out about Home Instead Senior Care. When we met the people at Home Instead, we just knew they were different. The experience was personal. And most importantly, for Mom and me, I get to be her daughter again.
Home Instead Senior Care. To us, it's personal.
At Vein 911, we will help you feel great again. Do you have restless legs, night leg cramps, or ankle swelling? Restless legs, cramping, swelling, and tired heavy legs are often symptoms of hidden vein disease. You do not have to have visible bulging veins to have the symptoms of vein disease. The vein care specialists at Vein 911 are uniquely qualified to evaluate and treat your veins. Are you unhappy with your previous vein treatment? Vein 911 succeeds where others fail. Call Vein 911 today at 855-VEIN-911. That's 855-834-6911 to book your free consultation. Vein 911. We will help you feel great again.
What's up, business rock stars? Are you ready to bring out the CEO in you? Join Julianne Nichols, CEO of Focus on You Strategy, every other Friday on That Business Show. She'll be talking with other chief entrepreneurial officers about how they grew their businesses. Remember, you could join the conversation at Focus on You Strategies Focus Fridays Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Focus Fridays. That's facebook.com/groups/Focus Fridays. Be the CEO of you. Are you in need of new flooring or ready to tackle that home remodeling project? Then contact Yeager & Company Incorporated, a family-owned, state-certified general contracting business with over 70 years of experience and the recipient of the Angie's List Super Service Award for the last 8 years in multiple categories. Yeager & Company comes to you with their shop-at-home flooring sales service, and their hardwood flooring refinishing is the very best in the Bay. Kitchen and bath design featuring American-made, well-born cabinets, and all work is done by employees, not subcontractors. Learn more at YeagerFlooring.com.
Savvy business owners utilize technology to connect with customers, communicate among teams, and collaborate with partners. Even with advances in technology, you all know it's not infallible. Where do you turn when your technology starts working against you? Who do you depend on to keep your team productive? Don't wait until your technology fails you. Get ahead of the crisis and contact the professionals at Alpha Computing Solutions so they can show you how to keep your technology running smoothly. Visit them online at www.alphacomputing.com.
Who doesn't have a smartphone these days? And of course, there's an app for everything. Well, almost everything. That's why the folks at Popcorn Apps started developing mobile applications. They saw people like you with genius ideas, unable to make those thoughts a reality. They develop applications for tens of thousands of dollars less than you'll find anywhere else, and will turn your idea into a reality in a matter of just a few months. Think you're not ready? Think again. They are your one-stop shop for mobile application development. See them at popcornapps.com with a K in popcorn, or call them at 727-415-6705 for your free consultation and pop your kernel of an idea into $1 million business and a world changer starting today.
We have a crash that's shutting down lanes in both directions of Woodbury Road, just east of Falkenberg. You'll want to avoid that area and take either Broadway Avenue or State Road 60 as an alternate. We also have heavy delays on 275 northbound along the midspan of the Howard Franklin Bridge all the way up to West Shore, and heavy traffic eastbound along the Courtney Campbell from the Little Bridge all the way to Rocky Point Drive. See traffic problems? Call the injury firm of Abrahamson and Uterwick Hillsborough Traffic Tip Line 866-545-9595.
This report is brought to you by Unbound. In places around the world, there are elders who long for community, connection, and the opportunity to live with greater dignity. Sponsor an elder through Unbound and help bring a brighter tomorrow to one person who has helped us all build a better world. Meet one at unbound.org.
Today, mostly sunny with drier air, high 81. Tonight, clear and cool, low 58. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, high 78.
You're listening to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly on 1250 Winds WHNZ. Missed a show? Then head over to TampaBayRadio.com, where all shows are available on demand. Once again, here are your hosts, Jamie and Kelly.
And welcome back to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business. We're here Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Also, live video stream available over at TampaBayRadio.com. Currently talking about wealth management with Matt DeGennaro. He is the founder and CEO of Seabridge Wealth Management. You can learn more at his site, which is seabridge.net.
Matt, what would be the difference when you talk fee-based versus fee-only?
Wow, that's a good. I get that question a lot. The long and short of it is the brokerage industry kind of they got smart about 15 or so years ago, and folks were talking about I don't want to pay high commissions and these sort of things. I don't want to compensate you by commission. So they came up with a term called fee-based. Well, fee-based means that a broker or an advisor can charge you a fee, like 1% or 1.5% of your assets, but they can also, in addition to that, they can receive commissions on the securities and investments that they sell you. So if they charge you 1.5% on your for a fee, and they put you into some investments that pay them 0.5% or 1% in commissions, well, that doesn't really tell the whole story if you're saying you're fee-based. But most people, unfortunately, think when people say fee-based, that means I'm only paying a fee, and that's totally incorrect. Fee-only, like folks like most RIAs, and I know at Seabridge we're fee-only, means it's just that. It's fee-only. So there's no in addition to commissions and all these other ways that financial providers get paid. And it's a critical difference.
Is that so? You can charge a fee and have it fee-based, but then are there a lot of times where then these other people are then investing monies into funds or whatever it may be, where they're getting then, I would say, is it called a kickback in a sense?
Well, it's not a kickback. It's called, in legal definitions, it's called a 12B1 fee, which means that a mutual fund company will say, hey, Mr. Broker or Mr. Advisor, if you sell your clients our mutual fund, I'll just pick Fidelity.
But then they might not be selling them on your best behalf.
That's
They're
the point.
selling them because they're getting...
That's the point, because it's a conflict of interest. They're selling a security to you that may not be in your best interest. It may be because he or she is getting a really nice commission from the underlying...
It's in their best
interest.
Yeah,
that's the whole point of the fiduciary standard rule, is to eliminate that. We want to make sure that advisors and brokers across the country are making investment decisions for their clients based on what's in the client's best interest, not what's in their best interest to generate more money for them and their firms.
Now, are you an active fund manager? Is that what is Seabridge considered an active fund manager versus indexing, for instance?
Well, no, we're not quote unquote active, meaning we're not timing the markets.
Right.
We're not trying to figure out the difference between Coke and Pepsi,
Right.
which one's going to do better. That's called active management, or timing, when to get in, when to get out of the market. We are more what they call evidence-based or indexed investors, where we will buy market segments. We'll use ETFs and index funds, very, very low cost, no commissions, no 12B1 fees, that broadly diversify a portfolio based on their particular tolerance for risk. That's the only thing that we care about. Do we match the investments that we put in your portfolio with your tolerance for risk and your goals? Doesn't matter how much money we make, right? What's important is, does that portfolio match what's in your best interest? And that's what we are charged with by law.
So how do you begin a business such as wealth management? Is it just about getting a couple key clients in there and managing money and then doing well for them and then referral based and building up? I mean, how do you build up a fund like this, a business like this?
Well, that's a great question. We were just talking about your, the TBBO, in terms of how small businesses grow and or in communities for getting together and share best practices and how we can grow together. It's really a lot of different ways to answer that question. Word of mouth is important. Doing things like this, referrals from what we call COIs, centers of influence. So if we have certain relationships with say trust attorneys or CPAs or folks that work with folks in other capacities that say, hey, look, well, we're doing your tax work, but wait a minute, you might want to go see Seabridge.
Because trust has such a big play.
It's
though,
a huge play.
Yeah. I was telling Kelly the other day, we were talking about, look what Bernie Madoff did, taking people's money and then turning it into a giant Ponzi scheme. I mean, so how do you establish that trust early on to get people? But is it just referral based, doing good for your clients and getting them to get more people in?
That's a really hard question to ask, because if you ask a broker who was charging 5%, or you ask their clients, most of their clients would probably say, yeah, I trust Joe or Susie. Well, the challenge with that is Joe or Susie do not have an understanding of the process enough to know whether they should trust Joe or Susie. Just Joe or Susie saying, well, trust us, right? I've got your best interest at heart. Well, that's great, but it's not telling me something. Show me that you're doing what's in my best interest. That's what's really important.
Right.
And it's hard to do that.
Yeah, like I said, they could be seeing Susie, whoever we're talking about, they could be seeing great returns, but they could actually be seeing better if they were being honest and not having being able to get more for their money and a better ROI out of it, and perhaps not being completely honest.
It's I don't know if it's a matter of honesty. I just think it's a matter of selective disclosure in terms of
if they weren't putting money into the funds that was getting them the extra commissions or whatever it may be, there could have been other portfolios that they could have gone into and made even more money.
That's
but
right.
because they were okay with, these ROIs are good, so I'm good. He's great.
Well, I was talking to a potential new client yesterday, and we had this exact conversation, and come to find out if this person were invested in a strategy similar to what Seabridge or others like us do, they potentially could have earned another 2 to 3.5% over every year over the last 3 years. And this was a lot of money this person had. This is substantial returns that are being left on the table, but they don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I always tell folks, make sure, even if you don't do business with us, go seek out a qualified registered investment advisor, someone with experience and credentials. We've been, and our team have been in this business for decades at the highest levels on Wall Street. Not all advisors and brokers are created equal. Just because you pass a Series 7 exam, it doesn't mean you're qualified to manage someone's money. Do a due diligence into their entire background and find out, do I want somebody who was, all due respect, that was a music teacher for 20 years that decided they wanted to go manage money, took a test, and now they're managing money? Well, that doesn't really sound like someone that I want managing my money. So you have to do a deep dive, take the initiative to make sure that you know who's managing your money and their qualifications and how they're getting paid.
Got about a minute left. Matt, who is your ideal client, your niche? Who do you want to work with?
Well, you're my ideal client because you've got about $20 or $30 million, right?
I wish.
Ideally, we like folks, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Danny, our previous guest, was asking on a break, who do we do business with? Well, typically we do business with two types of folks: high net worth investors, typically with $500,000 or more, and then corporate 401k plans. But on the individual side, it's typically an investor who is rational, that isn't going to micromanage what we do because we feel that we're experts at it. So we hopefully will have an understanding. A mutual agreement of how we're going to do this, and hopefully it evolves over time.
All right. Matt DiGennaro, founder and CEO of Seabridge Wealth Management. Good discussion. Thank you for coming
Thanks.
in today.
Nice to have you. Thank you.
And you can learn more about him at seabridge.net. And more about this program over at tampabayradio.com. And to get on the program, visit tbsinterview.com. You've been listening to That Business Show with Jamie and Kelly, where business becomes show business.